Nothing contained in this podcast should be considered a substitute for professional medical advice. This content does not represent our respective employers and is purely the opinion of the podcast hosts. We are not your personal medical providers. Sorry, friends. So, if you have concerns or are seeking a diagnosis or treatment, please seek individual advice from a healthcare provider in your area. We are not liable for any risks associated with acting upon the information contained in this podcast. This is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only, so enjoy the ride.
Please drink responsibly and in moderation. Before drinking, please be sure to be of the legal drinking age for your country. We do not encourage the misuse of alcohol.
Welcome to Medical Media Mixer, the perfect cocktail. I'm Nicole Peniston, psychologist.
And I'm Tara Prisco, physician assistant. All right, we got some fun stuff today. We're doing a back-to-back recording, but in your world, this isn't back-to-back because we recorded episode 63 and now we're recording episode 66. We're all discombobulated.
It's okay. It'll all make sense to you guys.
You won't know anything.
Hopefully.
But I'm still drinking my nuclear meltdown cocktail from 3 episodes ago somehow.
Yay.
And I haven't died yet.
You haven't. And hopefully you won't anytime soon.
Yeah, I hope that.
Yeah.
My goodness. Nicole's mouse is fixed.
My mouse is fixed. You didn't notice what's on my shirt.
I did. Your cat shirt. I see.
It is.
It's like a pattern, like a houndstooth, but it's a cat tooth.
It's cat's tooth. It's a cat's tooth sweater.
It is adorable.
Thank you. I try.
That's like something that I could totally. I feel like I saw pants like that too. Advertised.
They do.
Somewhere.
Our friend Christine has the pants because she told me she had the pants and she liked them. So then I bought the sweater.
Nice.
Yes. Lord knows we don't need this pattern over my giant butt. So my top half is much smaller. So that
I think it's
works
adorable.
out. It is. Thank you.
All right. Anything else new going on?
Anything else new going on? I ate a lot of snacks over the weekend. A lot of snacks. Yeah. So Twizzlers has these new tiny bunny shaped Twizzler pieces for Easter. So I ate a bunch and I don't like them, but I ate the whole bag.
But I don't like them.
I don't like them because they're cherry and I prefer the strawberry Twizzlers.
I prefer cherry.
No, the cherry tastes weird.
Yeah.
But it's anything else that's red dye 40, I prefer the cherry flavor of it. But for some reason, I like the strawberry Twizzlers better.
Of the red. Yeah. I like the flavor red in general.
The flavor. You like red dye 40?
You know, it's one of those things that we've gone through this. My blue dye fear or whatever, my blue color flavor fear is gone. But I would typically choose red, like an ice pop, lollipop,
Same.
Whatever it may be. Red would be my number one.
I'm red or orange, but preferably red.
My sister was always grape for the ice pops, the purple.
No. I mean, if there's no other choice, I'll take a grape, but...
No, it's not high on my list. Orange is definitely up there as, next in the list. Our house, we've become aficionados of gummy candies. Great for all of our teeth.
Yeah.
But they come home with all these different, there's sour gummies, there's these gummy bears are the soft ones, and these have the most flavor.
Well, you're going to have some jelly beans to try, and I'm also going to bring you a piece of the black caramel licorice.
Yes, we spoke about that.
Which is delicious, so you'll get to partake in those. I gave Deb one. She was like, I don't like it. Okay, more for me.
Deb, fine.
More for me.
Yeah, I'm not like a huge crazy candy person, but then like there's certain activities, like if we're going to watch a movie, like let's grab some popcorn, let's grab some like candy to snack on in between. Like that's...
Can I give you a hint? That's something I believe I saw on The Talk.
The Talk.
But maybe I saw it somewhere else. But the minute I tried it, it changed my life. Buttered popcorn, like preferably microwave, like warm popcorn with butter. Toss in some peanut M&Ms and just eat that all together.
So I actually have a favorite bag of M&Ms that I usually get, the sharing size, not the huge, not the too small. And it is a mixture of regular M&Ms, peanut M&Ms, and peanut butter M&Ms.
I like the peanut butter M&Ms. I just don't like regular M&Ms. And I think it was because like that was mostly what we had, that or peanut when we were little. So I'm kind of over the regular ones.
But that little balance, so I could have a little one of these, one of these, one of these.
I picked them up by accident because I thought I was getting, they have like 3 like new like seasonal flavors. And I forget which one I thought I picked up. I think it was cookie butter. But the one I actually picked up was peanut butter cinnamon roll. I don't hate it.
Okay.
I don't hate it.
Peanut butter and cinnamon roll together. That's an interesting combination.
It wasn't what I thought I was buying, but when I opened it, I didn't hate it. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, just wait. We have Easter candy. We just got through Valentine's. Easter candy will be coming soon.
I mean, technically there's St. Patrick's candy. Are you a fan of Irish potatoes?
There's candy.
Oh my gosh, the little brown things, they're like coconuts, and then it's rolled in brown sugar. You've never had an Irish potato?
I mean, I've had a real potato, but no, what?
Oh my gosh, I'm bringing you one when I see you next. Google it. I can't believe you've never had an Irish potato.
If I Google Irish potato, I'm going to have to put candy because it's just going to give me potato recipes.
Irish potato
does
candy
come up.
food.
So wait, the search results, number 1 is Irish potato famine, and number 2 is Irish potato candy.
It's a no-bake confection made of creamy coconut, cream cheese filling, rolled in cinnamon.
I see it, and I totally get it.
They originated in Philadelphia.
You're reading the Google AI summary as I am.
I can't believe you've never had one.
I've never heard of this. Never seen it. Never heard of it. What I thought you were going to say is that the little coin candies, which are really for like Hanukkah or something, but then repurpose them coins. Now
not as leprechaun coins. No,
leprechaun coins.
No, I meant these things. Which I will say, my strong feelings on cinnamon, but I'll allow it for this.
Spicy dirt.
I'll allow it for this.
You'll allow it.
Okay. I mean, it's authentic because potatoes come from the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
So true. Spicy dirt.
Spicy dirt. Are you a fan of St. Patrick's Day fairs for stuff?
St. Patrick's Day fairs? What?
Food.
I thought you meant like fair, a party. I'm like, what? I don't know.
Food.
I'll take it for sorry, I just got confused. A news thing popped up, said Eric Zane cause of death revealed after ALS battle. Is that not a spoiler alert? What, don't we know what he died from? Yeah. Sorry. I don't mind corned beef and cabbage, but it's not like something I would eat other times of year. Like I may have it like for the holiday.
Right.
And like some places, like there's oddly enough, there's an Italian deli near me that makes a really good corned beef and cabbage.
Well, my Italian mother-in-law makes a really good corned beef and cabbage.
Yeah. So I'll eat it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I'm the only person who sits at that table who has any Irish blood in them. And she makes a mean corned beef and cabbage because she zhuzhes it up. She puts a little shake red pepper, like the chili flakes in there, a little bit of garlic. It's got like more to it. And it's great. And we eat it for days after. Like I could eat that cabbage all day long.
Well, I don't think that my uncle listens to the podcast, but I know that my cousin, his son, does. And hi, Rye. And my uncle used to be the president of the Ironbound Irish Society, but we're not really 100% Irish.
Okay, that's okay.
But he did it more for the brotherhood. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
and he would like march in the parade, and it was like a whole thing.
Yeah, my percentage of Irish is a lot less than I even thought it was. So don't worry.
Yeah.
But my name, we were talking actually about this at the dinner the other day with the kids, like your name meanings. You know, like
Tara is an Irish name.
Yes, it's also an Indian name. So it means
India.
Like India. Mm-hmm. It means star in Indian, and
it
means like a rocky, like mountainous thing in Irish. A rocky crag, as they said. It was the kings of Tara.
I've always thought of you as a rocky crag.
Yeah, and funny enough, I'm not going to say the name on here, but one child's name actually technically came from a show, is also an Indian name in real life.
I was going to say both of your child's names came from
right, but the one that could be an Indian name.
The younger?
The older.
See, I could see the younger also being an Indian name.
But that one is actually usually for boys there.
I could see that.
What does Nicole mean?
It means victory of the people.
Well, you are. You are victorious.
Yes, I am.
And then we looked at my husband's name. I've said his name on the podcast, so, it's all right. I'm not protecting his anonymity, just my children's.
Anonymity.
So his name's Anthony, and I swear in my lifetime how many times, pray to St. Anthony, of the patron saint of lost things, right? When you go to Catholic school your whole life, like, God damn it, St. Anthony, please help me. I lost my keys, please.
Oh my goodness. Well, when I was briefly practicing Wicca, I had a spell to find lost things and a different spell to find a parking spot.
Oh,
the parking spot one worked pretty well.
I'll take it. That's interesting. All right.
So I guess we should get into it today.
What do you have for me today? I mean, I know, but I don't know.
No, you don't know. So the name of my drink is called the Gaslight Martini. So this was a bit of a stretch from the actual topic, but I feel like it's relevant to the show. Kind of.
Yeah.
So the Gaslight Martini is 2 ounces of black cherry vodka, 2 ounces of Malibu rum, 1 ounce of pineapple juice, 1 ounce of sour mix, not sweet and sour mix, just sour mix.
Okay.
1 dash of grenadine, a dash of cream, orange rind, and maraschino cherry. Wow. For garnish.
And you didn't even drink yet.
I didn't. I had 1 sip just to taste it. Basically, you pour all the ingredients into a shaker with ice, shake until cold, pour into a martini glass, and then garnish with the cherry and the orange. I was worried with the amount of alcohol. It wasn't going to fit into my martini glass, so I just put it in a regular glass. But it's pretty tasty. Yeah.
It sounds tropical and cherry, so fruity.
Yes. And it says it came from the Gaslight Bar and Grill in Chicago.
Nice.
So I guess that's why it's called the Gaslight. So I'm going to talk about the show on Hulu, All Her Fault.
Yes. So good.
So you've watched this show, I
did. Absolutely positively.
I'm sorry, not on Hulu. It's on Peacock. I
Peacock.
misspoke.
Yes. It was excellent. It was really well done.
So the premise of the show, for listeners who haven't watched it, is Marissa goes to pick up her son Milo from his first play date with a boy who's new to his school. She goes to the house where she thinks that Jacob lives, and the woman who answers the door got no kids, don't know who this lady is, was like, whatever. So, of course, Marissa's freaking out that, like, where's her son? Like, there has to be some mistake. And so this very kind lady who lives in the house kind of helps her, figure things out. And so then she gets back to her house eventually, and no one knows where Milo is. So he's now a missing child. And I believe Milo is 6.
Yeah, he's pretty little. Yeah.
Yeah. He's pretty young. I'm trying to see if it says exactly how old he is. Nope, it just says her son, but he's little. Probably first grade at the oldest, but seems like kindergarten. So she's doing all these things, like checking the tracker on his backpack. That's deactivated or missing. Like, there's all these like weird things that are like, that should have been fail safes if for some reason Milo did go missing, and they're just not working. So she contacts her husband, Peter, and they begin a desperate search. Involve the police. The police start interviewing everyone. Marissa reaches out to her new friend, Jenny, who she feels like is the only person she can count on. And the two kind of build an alliance or a bond together over both just their lives as mothers and wives and the trials and tribulations of that, but then also, over Milo being missing and going through this tragedy.
And it's Jenny's house that he was supposed to be at.
No, it's a different person.
It's a different kid? Oh, okay.
It's a different mother's name.
Yeah. Okay.
But she calls Jenny because she's like, oh, do you know this other mom? And she's like, I've heard of her, but I don't know her.
Right.
Yeah. So basically they go on this hunt to find Milo, and deep family secrets are uncovered.
There's all
changing
kinds
their
of drama.
lives forever.
There's all kinds of drama.
Yeah.
This whole family's got some weird, just stuff.
Yes. So in the midst of all this, we're also introduced to the lead detective on the case. He has his own drama. He has a special needs son of his own. And so this case really hits close to home because he just can imagine how devastating it would be for your child to go missing. And so he's super invested. But he's also doing his job as a detective and entering it all with, a grain of, skepticism about the family and their story and what really happened. And so he unravels a complex and frightening web of deception and lies that has ensnared both the Irvine and Kaminsky families. But his moral code is stretched to the breaking point.
And the big thing is, the mother's very important job in finance or something. And she's just like, the whole blame kind of always turns, well, you're too busy, you're, not around, you're not present.
Hence the title of the show, All Her Fault.
Right. It's all
kind
about
of
the
always,
women's...
yes, it always goes back to how it's always the mother's fault or the woman in the situation's fault. There's kind of a peripheral storyline that later becomes more important, where essentially the father, Peter, blames his sister, his younger sister, for a family tragedy that she was not at all involved in, but she was too young to recall that. And so, it's another time where we're blaming the woman in the situation for taking the blame for a tragedy that really was not at all her fault. So it stars Sarah Snook as Marissa, Jake Lacey as Peter Irvine. Jake Lacey, we've talked about him before. He was Brother B in the story. That's who he played. Remember, I was like, he's that guy that looks like familiar.
Guy. Yeah. But when you see him in this from the beginning,
he doesn't seem the same.
I don't like him.
I mean, I didn't like him in the other one.
Well, I guess we weren't supposed to like him in that one either.
He does play unlikable characters.
Yeah.
And he plays them quite well, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my favorite, Dakota
Yes.
Fanning, is Jenny Kaminsky, who is the friend, the other mom through all of this. And she also has a very like high profile job and is constantly pulled between her job and her husband, who's not really as helpful with their child as she would like him to be.
Yep.
He frankly seems kind of lazy throughout.
Yep.
And doesn't really want to do his fatherly duties or his husbandly duties. And so she's kind of have to handle it all and handle it all with a smile, which she does not always do that. Also is Leah Irvine. That is Peter's younger sister. We find out she is a recovering drug addict and she got into substance use due to the blame she had to take for their youngest sibling, Brian, who was disabled due to an accident in young childhood where he essentially suffered a spinal cord injury. Spoiler alert, it was not Leah's fault that Brian got injured. It was actually Peter who injured his brother, and he was the oldest of the three. When he ran to get their mother, he blamed his younger sister on the accident. And then the younger sister and the brother, they were both so young at the time that they had very like foggy memories of it, and so couldn't necessarily find out that truth until all of this confessions comes out at gunpoint later on in the movie.
There's
a lot of drama,
all kinds of craziness.
Yes. So another important character is who also goes. Sophia Lillis is the actress. So it's Josie, Josephine, but she also has several aliases throughout the movie, and she essentially is the woman who ended up kidnapping Milo. Because, should I just do the spoiler?
Well, first, she was the nanny.
Yes, she was the nanny. She was Jenny's nanny. And so through like a meeting on the playground, that was how she met Milo.
Right.
However, we come to find out later, she and Milo had crossed paths about a year earlier. It'd been some time that they had crossed paths. Josie comes to think, and then is later proven correct, that Milo is her child. So do you want to tell the audience how Josie's child ended up as Marissa and Peter's child?
So
that was
Marissa and Peter were coming home from the hospital, right? No?
Yes. I was confusing about who was in labor versus who was coming home.
They were coming home from the hospital with their child.
With their newborn.
Their newborn, right. And then they were in a horrible car accident with his other car, and then Marissa's knocked out. Peter looks in the back, realizes the child is no longer with us, and then he goes to check on the other woman or the other car, and it's, what's her name? Josie, and her child in the car, who's alive,
who is approximately the same age. What are the odds?
And he decides at that moment to switch the babies in the car seats to keep the live child and let Josie believe her child died and let him and Marissa go home with this other child.
And this really, Josie's already on a difficult path in her life. She's kind of always been aimless, doesn't have the best home life. Her baby daddy essentially kind of leaves her. So she's just determined that she's going to have this baby on her own and raise him. And then she thinks that her baby died, and so that really sends her kind of in a spiral into even more tragedy and difficulty, even though her life wasn't great to begin with. And so I think at one point the baby daddy tries to get back with her, but then she's just too much of a mess. So something that confused me throughout the movie, and maybe you caught on to this, or maybe it's just me because I had my psychology hat on, they keep essentially referring to her as like odd or strange or weird, but like nothing she does is odd or strange or weird. She's just like the poor aimless girl with a shitty life.
Yeah. No, I agree. Maybe she's
there's some weird stuff later as an adult, but like,
right.
Yeah, when they like show her whole background, like she's not doing anything overtly unusual to make people think there's something wrong with her.
But her parents were really crappy, so.
Exactly. So that's, adjustment.
Right. Like that, she just had really bad upbringing.
Yeah. Well, and I bring that up because what I'm going to talk about today is synesthesia. So at some point, mid to end of movie, we kind of get that flashback of when Josie first meets Milo. And Milo essentially somehow, I don't remember the exact circumstances.
They were at this cabin. The family was at this cabin. Mm-hmm. And he was outside.
And she had like wandered she was like leaving somebody and just happened to like wander by.
Yeah, she was I can't remember. She was with somebody in the car, her father.
She was with her father, who has his own issues.
Right. And she got out. I don't remember how she ended up
I feel like they had an argument and she like stormed off and went to like go sit by herself.
And she just ended up chatting with this little boy and having this conversation.
But during that conversation, Milo mentioned something about a synesthetic symptom, which is basically when your senses get crossed. And so maybe you taste colors or you hear scents or something like that. He makes some sort of comment to that.
Right.
And she kind of like has this light bulb moment. She's like, I have that too. And so she tries to like bond with him over that. But he's like a 5-year-old. So he's like, okay, cool, weird lady. Bye.
Yeah. See ya.
Like, he has no attachment. He's just like, all right, cool. But that is really what gets Josie kind of obsessed with Milo and exploring more of his situation. And I think she actually does. It's kind of weird because it's like a series of flashbacks at times and flash forwards, essentially, or flash to present, where we find out through a very convoluted way that synesthesia is allegedly genetic. Mm-hmm. It can run in families, but you can also just have it.
Okay.
It can also be acquired from an injury.
Right. Okay.
So, but she's kind of latching onto that. And we also have to put this in context. She was very young at the time. She's mourning the loss of her baby. And now she meets this little boy who's approximately the age her child should be. And he has this weird thing that she has. But then she starts exploring the family because somehow she finds out the family, like maybe doesn't Milo like call his mother's name or like somehow she finds out more about her
who
family.
They are. Yeah.
And looks into it and realizes it's the people she had a car accident with when her baby died. And so that is what kind of helps her go down that twisty trail of stole my baby.
And then her trying to steal him back.
But she steals him back temporarily and then she starts to feel guilty. So she essentially is going to like return him, but she wants to confront the family first. This is where she comes in at gunpoint, and that's when Peter spills all his family trauma, which has nothing to do with anything. It comes up out of nowhere.
And even like Marissa's partner, his whole thing.
Her business partner that is Leah's boyfriend.
Yeah, like all that's just like extra.
Yeah, a lot of drama comes out that has nothing to do with this little boy being kidnapped.
It just pulls out all the family drama because everybody throws it down. It's crazy.
I mean, I assumed that the whole thing about the business partner and the stealing money was they thought that this kidnapping had to do with money.
It had to do with that.
And so he was basically this woman walks in with a gun and he's like, oh shit, let me confess all this stuff. Yeah. So he brings back the little boy. He ends up getting shot and killed in this whole situation. He was dating Leah, the sister, kind of quietly, but not kind of quietly because people knew.
Yeah.
So a lot of drama. A lot of drama goes on. But basically, as she's got this gun to people and they're trying to figure everything out, the truth comes out that yes, Peter did steal this baby. And so then that leaves Marissa in this situation of like, well, like, what do I do? Like, he's my son. Like, I've raised him for 5 years. This is my child. But yeah, it's not biologically my child. And what does that mean? I don't remember how it ends. What happens to the baby? What did they do with him?
I watched it when it came out, and that was just a couple months ago.
I thought that she gave him back to Sophie.
I think so.
Because I remember there's something at the end where she meets up with Jenny and is kind of like talking about like her adjustment. Like I think she has visitation with him or something like that.
There must be some sort of a joint thing because she also wasn't stable in a lot of ways at that point. And I'm sure there's some criminal charges having to do with all this.
But I also know that she divorces Peter, testifies against his ass.
Yes, I know that.
The dad goes to jail, so he's out of the picture.
Yeah.
Which I think at that point, both women are kind of like, he's the problem, not us. So I think they come to kind of an agreement about how to raise Milo and support him. In the midst of all this, Jenny kicks her husband to the curb too. And so now it's like single moms unite because they're all like doing their thing.
And they have this like beautiful house with this like outlook onto like the water and like sitting out there having a glass of wine together type of a deal. Like,
yeah. Which like I kept expecting. Yeah. I kept expecting them to like not be friends. And they it was just like so weird because I felt like they never really established why they remained friends. They just were. And maybe like that's real life where you just kind of are.
Yeah. All that crap sort of brought you together. And
I just feel like there was so much more development of all the other relationships. And it was just like, oh yeah, that's another mom in my class. Oh, let me call her and see if she knows where Milo is. Oh, now we're best buddies.
Right. I mean, they had a moment during that fundraiser in the bathroom where they hung out the whole
where they were wearing the same dress.
And then they just sort of bonded, like hanging out. So I think it's just weird circumstances and they just clicked.
I mean, the question was, who wore it better? I thought the dress was ugly. I didn't think either.
I don't remember the dress being good. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're both like gorgeous actresses, and I didn't think the dress looked that great on either of them, but that's just me. So synesthesia. As I alluded to before, synesthesia is a perceptual phenomenon in which senses essentially get crossed their pathways. And so you may hear what something smells like, or you may taste what something looks like. And so it's not that common, but it's not so uncommon that people haven't heard of it. I think it's talked a lot about in media just because it's like cool and like interesting, something to talk about. And so it basically is when the traditional 5 separate senses get crossed. So let's take a trip back in time.
Okay.
To when I talked about sensory processing disorder.
Yes.
Other than your 5 basic senses, do you remember what the other, I only talked about 2, but there's actually 4 alternate senses.
Alternate senses.
Yes.
I have no idea.
So we talked about interoception. That's knowing the internal state of your body.
Okay.
There's proprioception, knowing where your body is in space.
Right. I know that one.
So the other 3 are chronoception, so that's your understanding of time. Thermoception, that's your understanding of temperature. And then here's a tricky one, nocioception.
Oh, wait, no, that's a thing.
It is a thing.
No, but I know that because that's something that I've neurologically had to know. Nocioception.
It's usually when people don't have nocioception that it's a problem.
Right. I don't know. I know proprioception. I can't think of what nocioception is.
It's reaction to pain.
Pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or other noxious stimuli.
Yeah.
Typically it's pain. And in a lot of medical senses, we need to know if someone has an underreaction to pain, because then that could lead to them having injuries or illnesses and not being able to know and communicate that. So that's probably why it would come up more for you or for me.
Yeah, in a neurologic exam,
population.
I would probably just put like decreased pinprick response. So, but nocioception is the technical term. But like if you're checking for sensation.
But that's why it's important. And a lot of times, I don't know, I mean, I'm sure you would probably also see it in maybe the elderly population or people who have brain injury, but I tend to see it in kids with developmental disabilities who maybe have other more severe issues. And so they maybe can't communicate regularly, but then also if they have an under response to pain, we need to look out for other pain signals, such as like holding your body differently or things like that. So there are 2 types of synesthesia.
Okay.
So there is seeing colors, forms, or shapes when stimulated. So one sense is stimulated, then you're getting a reaction about another sense. The other type is associative synesthesia, where you're associating one sense with another sense.
Okay.
So instead of it being crossed, it's like you are smelling and tasting an orange when you see the color orange.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
That's a lot.
But honestly, that one makes more sense to me.
You're associating the smell, the taste, and
the sight.
Yeah. I mean, that one will an orange specifically, but when you talk
it just seemed like an easy one to use as an example.
Tasting the rainbow, sort of.
Tasting the what?
Skittles.
Tasting the rainbow.
Taste the rainbow.
But I can taste the rainbow. I know red tastes like cherry.
Right. Exactly. Green is green apple.
But if I put all of the Skittles
or
in
lime,
my mouth.
See?
That's true. But if I put all the Skittles in my mouth, they don't taste like anything. They just taste like sugar. Like I don't taste the colors anymore. I think that too, and I'm glad that you brought that up, even though it's silly. It's because like I think a lot of times we will be like, I like the red flavor or I like the green flavor, but this is different. Mm-hmm. Like when we say you like the red flavor, it's we know that you like strawberry or cherry or something that is red colored
or raspberry, right.
And we just associate it with that because we know it's not the true fruit
but
flavor.
I'm not actually having my signals crossed. I do know the difference, right?
Exactly. So as we were talking about, the primary effect, this is kind of like going even deeper, is what you're experiencing because of the sensory input. So normally when you hear sounds, you recognize them as music versus voices. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes people hear specific words and they smell a certain way or they taste a certain way.
Okay.
And I had an example written down and I lost my little note paper, but I was watching some TV show and they were like, oh, the name this tastes like this. And I was like,
I feel like I saw that same show.
It might have been one of the examples in this movie, but it's definitely come up in other films.
Yeah.
So the secondary effect is that people with synesthesia experience more than one sense before. I mean, I don't know why I said before, more than one sense at a time. So it seems like one of their senses is working, but there's no input to cause that. So that's seeing colors because you hear music. Music isn't visual. So I think that's more of like the traditional synesthesia that we think about.
Right.
Like when someone hears the color orange.
My brain is trying to wrap myself around this and like trying to imagining experiencing that. You know what I mean? Like,
So you say that, but there's a bunch of TikToks that do this. It's particularly this person who I believe he's a musician, and he has synesthesia. And he starts off the clip. It's just all you see is the piano keyboard. And he says, "What color does this sound like?" And he'll play something. And I've watched like 6 of his videos, and I got like 5 of them right.
Really?
For what he named it was. So I also wonder if some of it is kind of implanted. Like when you're told what color is this music, you're already going through a bunch and then trying to assign a color that you feel like feels like the music versus it just being automatic, because that's what synesthesia is. It's automatic. So no one's suggesting it to you and you think about it. It just happens.
I mean, there's nothing I have that experiences close to that other than like you can smell a memory, if that makes sense. Like,
yes, but that's different.
Right. That's not taking in one sense for another.
It's a different type of memory.
I can tell, like, I know what like the cleaning products in like the middle school bathroom kind of smelled like the, you know what I mean? Or like the pencil shavings or something without experiencing it. I can smell pencil shavings.
Or, I mean, I think this is around the same. Right. You can feel what it feels like to run your nails down a chalkboard, even though it's a sound, but you can feel it. Like it's a little like vibration and it's not fun. So I think we all can relate to synesthesia, but it's not automatically happening.
Right.
So basically you've got your 5 main senses. That is sight, sound, scent, touch,
hearing. Sound.
Hearing.
We did sound. We did sound.
No, I did hearing. Sight, sound.
Eyes, ears, nose.
Taste.
Mouth. Taste.
I always forget taste. And it's funny because I've done like sensory calm down bags and I always forget taste. But for me, I think that's because like in my context, we're not eating a lot in a therapy session. So I'm not thinking of taste, but at least we shouldn't be eating a lot in a therapy session. Sometimes you do. When you do feeding therapy, you do. So some of those mixed perceptions can involve other senses as well, like balance or like the proprioception, like we were talking about, or your sense of time or your sense of numbers or your understanding of languages. So this is where it gets tricky because I feel like if you're multilingual, you're probably already translating, but that's not synesthesia.
No.
So I wonder if it's maybe in your native language, you have the word, but then you're associating that with a different sense, if that makes sense.
Okay. I don't know. My brain is mixed up right now.
Okay. So this is like the worst example, but I'm just thinking about because it's on my shirt. So in French, cat, it's chat, like chat, the word chat, but you don't say it that way in French.
Okay.
So if you're a native French speaker, that's probably what you're automatically thinking of the word as.
Right.
But then if you're bilingual, let's say French and English, maybe the synesthesia for you is when you think of cat in English, maybe you're thinking of furry.
Okay.
And I know it's like, it's not a direct translation, but I'm just thinking like a sense that goes along with cat, but it's not the name or the word. Does it?
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
It really is.
I think it's hard to come up with examples when it's not your own personal experience too.
Right. Right.
So there are very common forms of synesthesia. So one is auditory tactile. You hear something and it feels like something. So this word like cat feels fuzzy.
Okay.
Day and color. So I always thought this was more time and color. So yellow is morning.
Right.
But I don't know if they mean like day, like yellow is Monday. Monday would be black. No.
I used to assign like genders to numbers.
Okay. That's sort of.
Right. Like one is, a boy, 2 is a girl, like different, like, I don't know. When I was
what is 12?
Kid, I don't know. I think I only went up to like 10. So
count.
I was a very little child at the time, but you know what I mean? Like some sort of a personality or gender to the number. I don't know why.
Okay. Hearing and motion. So you hear something and then you get a motion feeling. That I feel like makes sense.
But that's
because if I think of EDM music, it's fast.
Okay.
And classical is slow.
Okay. This is tricky.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, somewhat.
Grapheme and color. Do you know what a grapheme is?
No.
You do. You do. You probably just don't know what grapheme means.
Okay. What does it mean?
I have to look it up. Grapheme is like a part of a word. Like it's like a letter. It's like a CH.
There's another word for that. A blend. No?
Yeah.
A blend.
But graphemes are not always 2 letters. It can be just 1 letter or 3 letters.
Okay.
Yeah. So types of graphemes are single letters like A, B, or C. So that makes sense. So A is yellow and B is orange and C is green.
Okay.
Grapheme color.
See, I could see like being a little kid and assigning that in my head, but not necessarily being automatic, but just being a thing that I made up.
So this next one was on one of my favorite shows, because I've already talked about it twice on the podcast, but Brilliant Minds is mirror touch synesthesia. Do you know what that is? And it is a real thing.
When you see something, but you feel it, like you...
So mirror touch. So either you see someone and you feel their emotions, or you touch them and you feel their emotions. So there's one of the doctors on Brilliant Minds has mirror touch synesthesia, and he's working in the ER. So it's very, very overwhelming for him, and he really struggles with his job. But then there's a particular patient who's having trouble communicating, and he uses that mirror touch to help define what's going on with this person and help figure out what problems.
Is that being like a super empath?
Kind of, but you usually have to have like with this particular character, he has to physically touch them or be very close to them. So like standing next to them.
It sounds like a superpower though.
Well, and that's why I brought up this character in the show, because they really show the downfalls of it and how difficult it is for him. If anyone watches this show, spoiler alert, someone dies very close to him and they basically have to get taken off of life support. But he is trying to use his mirror touch to see if they're still conscious in their unconscious body, like if they're still have brain function, and he's not getting any response. And that's really hard for him to understand.
Yeah.
So another type of synesthesia is time-space synesthesia.
Okay.
So I think, and I'm probably doing all this wrong, so someone can comment or send us an email and correct me. Time-space synesthesia, I think that's when, because we've all made comments like, it feels like a Tuesday.
Right. But this would be an automatic thing. So like your brain always associates
the space that you're in with whatever. So like, I think maybe a better explanation is like, if you've had a really long day at work, you're like, it feels like a Monday, but that's because you're at work and it's a hectic day. So in that space, in that context, you feel like it's a certain time or day. I could be doing all this wrong. This is fine. We're all learning together. And then there's visualized sensations, which that's kind of like what we talked about, those other examples. Oh, wait, look, they define it for me. So mirror touch synesthesia is when you see something happen to someone else and you physically feel it too, or you touch them and you feel their pain, whatever's going on with them. So if you can imagine, if a doctor has mirror touch synesthesia, how hard it must be for them to operate on someone.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Time-space synesthesia. This is people who have this form often see, so this is a little bit different, see sequences of specific patterns and forms. So it's kind of like visualizing a calendar in a certain way, like you're mapping out details in like order. It makes me think of like a comic strip where you're mapping out, that's how you experience something, is like in, does that make sense?
I mean,
I can't imagine what that feels like in real life, but that's how they define it.
Like in my head, I picture the calendar, like January's up here and then like,
no, I think they're talking about like a day of the week on the calendar and it's like mapped out like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Maybe I have some of this stuff. I don't know. I picture like the month, and I picture like it ends all the way down here in September and then starts again in January. I don't know.
Wait, so your calendar only goes January to September?
No, I mean September, October, November, December, and then it like goes back up top and then it goes down.
Really? Mine goes across January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December.
Yeah, no. See, mine goes from top to bottom and then the next year it starts up top again. But like those are associations that have been in my head my entire life, but that's just how I process it. That's weird.
So the hearing motion synesthesia, this, I should have just read ahead because this explains it way better than I did. When someone goes past you very quickly, but you hear the whoosh.
It's like time went slow.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and it's experiencing a sound in relation to seeing something move, but that sound is not existing.
Okay.
Because I mean, if somebody's going past you and they've got a bunch of robes on, you're going to hear a swoosh.
Right. But if it's just normal.
And then the grapheme color, that's exactly what we said. Those smallest parts of language are then associated with specific colors.
Yeah, that one I could see.
I feel like that would be really disoriented, like reading like text on a page. Because if every letter or every group of letters has a certain color, then it's like all different colors and throws you off.
This is obviously not exactly that, but do you ever, there's a bunch of memes and probably falls under me because I have a child and we're back to school shopping and they have like all the folders and they're like, what color, what subject is red? Like what subject is yellow? Like for your folders, if you were organizing it, like science is green. Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that. If I wanted to protest, I could
Math
not.
is blue. Okay. Social studies.
Why is math blue? Earth sciences would be blue.
Green. Science is green.
No, chemistry is green.
We're just doing science. We're doing the basic. We're talking elementary school here. All right. English, math, social studies, science, like the basics.
Red, blue, green, yellow.
What about, red is English. I think yellow is social studies. And green is science and blue is math. But I think everybody has their own determination of that. I mean, you have an association. You felt strongly that certain things are certain things.
No, all of my folders were purple.
Okay.
This is my favorite color. Okay, so day color, I was right. Associating certain colors with certain days of the week. And it says that's one of the more common forms of synesthesia.
Yeah, I could see that.
We talked about mirror touch, sound color. So that's when music sounds like a certain color. Like I was talking about the TikTok videos. Yeah, there was one where it was this guy like played like this just instrumental song. And immediately I was like, that's yellow. And then I like went and read the comments and he was like, my answer was yellow. And like so many people, and I didn't look at the comments. They were not open.
This came right out of you. It's interesting.
Yeah. And then to recap, because this was confusing, the time-space synesthesia is when you're seeing things in a certain pattern or sequence. So I think maybe a better way to think about it is finding patterns in things that don't inherently have a pattern.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. They can have different levels of intensity. Possible causes are developmental, which is also called genuine or constitutional synesthesia. Acquired, like I talked about before, it can be from a brain injury, or drug induced, which I think that we associate with like LSD, the psychedelics,
of course. Yeah,
when you're like tasting the colors and like smelling the sounds and all that kind of stuff. But it's the same. That's the experience that the people are having, just not while under the influence of something.
Right. And this is just their life. So
some interesting things about acquired synesthesia is that it's not as consistent as people who have the constitutional form. So it can come and go. Sometimes maybe more intense than others. And it tends to be shorter lived. So it seems like it's a very brief experience versus this is just how you go about in the world. And then we just talked about the drug induced. It tends to be from psychedelics. So DMT, LSD, peyote, psilocybin are the top ones. When you're experiencing that synesthesia while high, they tend to be emotion dependent. So if you're in a positive emotional state, maybe you're hearing more pleasant music or seeing more pleasant colors versus if you're upset or scared, things are going to be more ominous.
Okay.
And it's not automatic. Sometimes you can minimize or stop it by focusing on certain things. It's not automatically going to happen. So you can kind of like trick your brain out of it and be like, okay, I'm going to really focus and it'll stop.
Right. I can see that.
But it can alter your perception. So in synesthesia, you're still perceiving the actual stimuli. You're just making an association with something else, where when it's drug-induced, you're not necessarily perceiving things correctly at all. So it could be a hallucination.
Right.
So we don't really treat it. It's just something that's at least the developmental or the acquired kind. It just is what it is. You learn to adjust to it. Drug-induced, obviously, we want to reduce the drugs and get somebody clean and be in a supportive, positive environment until it subsides on its own. Here's an interesting, can you learn synesthesia?
Like train your brain? I bet you could. I bet you could like intensely train that.
So it says research shows that synesthesia often has a learned component. Some examples of this are learning the alphabet, counting and numbers, and names of days and months of the year. So we're labeling those things to make human understanding, where they're not necessarily that associated. So like numbers are just shit we made up. But now we're assigning meaning to 1 counts for this much versus 2 counts for this much. And so we're making those associations and we're learning them over time. And then they just become fact to us.
But I bet also if you're literally teaching the ABCs over and over to a child using the same book and those A's and those B's are certain colors, that they may then associate it if you do that same thing repetitively enough. It may probably subside as you get into the bigger world and not everything's that way. But I could totally see that.
And that's what the research shows, is that you can train yourself, you can induce it, but it tends to be temporary or very slight if you're not constantly doing it all the time. It fades over time. It's not as fast or as strong as someone who's experiencing it naturally. It's not common, but it's not rare either. As I alluded to when we first started, it can affect as many as 1 in 8 people. Estimates say that about at least 4% of the worldwide population have it, but also there are so many different forms of it that number is probably not counting all the different iterations.
And not everybody's going to come
synesthesia.
out and be like, I smell colors. Like they've just been dealing with it their whole life. So,
and that's the other thing, just like we were talking about prosopagnosia or face
Right.
blindness, is if that's your lived experience for your whole life, you don't know any different.
Right.
So you're not going to then say to someone, hey, I think I have synesthesia. It's just the way you see
Right.
the world.
Now, if it's acquired and you had a brain injury,
Exactly,
and you
that's
notice
different.
it,
Yeah.
you're going to be like, oh, that's weird. That never happened before. So that's different. But if you've grown up with it. Now, is it found more, I know you said certain like developmental disorders it's more associated with. Anything else that it's more associated with? Like, no?
The acquired kind of brain injury.
Just the acquired. Okay.
And so that's why I was bringing up that question before about your perception of Josie in the show, because what I think they're alluding to based on several things they say is that she has autism, and I don't think she does.
I think that that's what they were alluding to, though.
Yeah, they're alluding to it, but she shows literally no signs of it.
Yeah.
Other than being overly trusting, which if you're in a chaotic, messy household, you may be trusting of people to just get yourself out of that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she was slightly quirky. I would not call her anything else.
Yeah. I have not met someone with autism who also has synesthesia, but it's also not something I'm asking about.
Right.
So it's very possible that it's there and we just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
There are some famous artists who have synesthesia. Do you want to take a stab?
I could see that impacting their art too, if they especially with color and music.
The 4 here that are listed are all musicians. So any guesses?
We're talking like composer like musicians, or are we talking like modern musicians? We're talking like old timey like Beethoven, or are we talking like
one
modern?
Was very popular in the 90s. She is still popular today.
Okay. Madonna.
And she has an initial. It's first name, initial, last name.
Mary J. Blige.
Yes.
Huh. See? God.
There's another one who's very famous and is married to a musician and has 3 children, and one of whom...
It's like a quiz show here.
One of whom is also an up-and-coming musician and has been dancing in her concerts.
Wait, Beyonce?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Also,
I like this pop culture quiz. This is fun.
And I don't have the data to help you guess the other 2, but it's Duke Ellington and Billy Joel.
Okay. All right.
Synesthesia, apparently, people who have that has close, clear ties to creativity, so they tend to be involved in the arts or creative careers.
I could see that, though. Yeah, colors and music, I feel like that overlap.
They also tend to have better memory and score higher on intelligence tests. But I think it's all related. Like, if you're already making these associations, you're going to remember things better.
Right.
And then IQ tests are heavily learning based. So if you have a good memory, you're going to learn and remember things better and then perform better on IQ tests.
Okay.
The most common forms of synesthesia are the sight, hearing, or touch based, where taste and smell based are more uncommon.
Okay.
It's not a mental illness we just talked about. This is interesting. If someone has a sensory problem, do you think they have synesthesia? So if someone is blind, congenital blindness, do you think that they have synesthesia? Because I think we've always been taught, at least in the medical field, is that when you lose one sense or you don't have one sense, the others take over.
Right.
But isn't that what synesthesia is?
Right. Somewhat.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, it's, I guess, all right. Like, here's if you're blind, are you hearing?
So this is actually saying if someone is born blind, they still know what color is.
Really?
They can still differentiate color, but they're not saying how. So I'm like, maybe they're making the association of that color with one of the other senses. Like, that sounds like orange.
I had to close my eyes to even.
I know. That's why I was watching you, fascinated.
You know what I mean? Like when you have to try and experience something. I had to close my eyes to even try and visualize or think about it. So is like the crossing of the senses, and now this is not synesthesia, but it's trying to hack that, we'll say. Like, I remember teaching something in a song helps you to remember it better. Like, or studying something while pacing, someone told me, would help you to remember it better. Like,
it's different. No, because there's different types. So kinesthesia, which is movement.
Movement, right.
That's a different type of memory versus auditory movements or auditory memory or visual memory. So basically, you're not crossing the senses. You're just using more than one sense to help you remember.
Okay. I remember like pacing in the library trying to memorize organic chemistry, and I'm like, I'm not sure if this is helping, but I will do it if it's what it takes.
Do you want me to like blow your mind with other
Sure.
things? Ideasthesia.
Ideasthesia.
It's right there in the name.
Well, obviously it's something to do with ideas, but like thinking, I don't know, thinking in...
Activation of concepts, so ideas, evoke perceptual experiences. So when you get an idea about a book you want to write, it makes you hungry.
Okay.
So it's like one thing, like it's, again, crossing the senses, but it's more specific.
Okay.
Kinesthetic synesthesia is one of the most rare forms.
Okay.
So that was when you are moving and then you associate that movement with something else versus... Actually, it's probably the same as when, like I said before, the person moves by you and then you hear the whoosh, which makes sense. But I also feel like I wonder how that translates to other cultures, because whoosh is a very Americanized term. There's a word for
that's an
those
onomatopoeia.
words. An onomatopoeia?
Yeah.
Really? That's what an onomatopoeia was?
Yes. Like pow, whoosh, boom.
I don't like onomatopoeias.
I mean, but I think that crosses all cultures. I'm pretty sure it means the same. Achoo.
Oh, the one we were talking about before, when a word or a name tastes like something.
Okay.
That is lexical gustatory synesthesia. So the word basketball tastes like waffles. And apparently there's a documentary called Eric Taste of Earwax.
Oh.
Yeah. Where there's a guy who gets particular sensations or flavors when he hears people's names.
Yes. I feel like this was on something else that
it's been on other things.
Yeah.
But it says it's estimated that 0.2% of the synesthesia population has that form.
That particular.
Yeah. But I feel like that's like a sexy one to put on TV.
Of course, because it's different.
Yeah. But I also feel like sometimes people say things and you're like, oh, I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't get the basketball and waffles, but I've had people tell me things. I'm like, yeah, I see that.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, a basketball smells like rubber, but that's literal, not figurative.
But what does it taste like?
Rubber. It's very literal, not figurative whatsoever, not sensory.
Okay, so this I think is similar to what we were talking about before with the calendar. Ticker tape synesthesia. What do you think that is before I define it for you? I think this is hard for us because we barely know what a ticker tape is, and people younger than us don't at all know what a ticker tape is.
It's like something running, like a running in time, like a receipt, sort of, like a...
Kind of.
Yeah.
So
I'm
ticker tape...
I'm making motions that no one can see on camera.
If I'm defining this correctly, ticker tape, I know it was used on the stock market, but I think it was like kind of like telegrams were on a paper, but it was like this running text. So ticker tape synesthesia is when people hear words but visualize it as like ticker tape, like it's being typed in front of them. Which I feel like that one makes the most sense to me.
That does.
Yeah.
That definitely, it's like you have captions for life.
Exactly.
I could do that.
That's subtitles for everything.
Yeah.
Spatial...
Can you change the language? Click.
Yeah. Spatial sequence synesthesia.
Spatial or facial? You said
spatial. No, not facial. Spatial.
Spatial sequence. Like, well, not time, so not before and after.
Close, though.
Like the way something occurs. I don't know. So
it says some people see time like a clock above and around them. So if somebody says to you, it's 9:45, we got to go, they're visualizing the clock, even though it's not there. Which I feel like that makes sense to me, though.
My days are the same as my calendars. They start here, they go down, and then it's midnight, and it's the next sun.
I know what kind of planners you're using. You're using the page-a-day calendars. Page-a-day planners.
It's just my brain. It's my planner.
So it doesn't feel like it's related, but I feel like this is the one thing that most people are going to relate to is the concept of ASMR, where the sound of something makes you feel a certain way.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so that in itself is not synesthesia, but I think that's what most of us can relate to of that experience.
Get to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll end this conversation on this. What is your favorite ASMR?
I'm both intrigued and turned off by ASMR, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but there's like some that people like and then some that people don't like.
Creepiness feeling sometimes.
It feels very voyeuristic.
Yeah.
Because especially like the ones that are like people whispering. Yeah. It's like you're not supposed to be listening to whispers.
I don't know. I don't really like it.
What comes to mind when you think of ASMR? Because I get one very specific sound that comes to mind.
I don't think I've experienced enough to like know it, but yeah, I don't know. I can't
I
tell you
think of
something.
somebody running their fingertips down the tines of a comb.
Huh.
But like you can visualize what
Yeah.
that sound is like.
That's like feels like sensory seeking behavior, like,
It
right?
can be.
Like that. Yeah. I feel like I'd be more tactile
Okay.
than sound.
So you would like the feel of your finger running down
Yes.
the
More
comb versus the
tactile
sound
than
of it.
like the sound.
I think I'm more auditory, but I think that's because I listen to like sleep sounds before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And like I have very specific ones. Like some are too loud, some are too aggressive, some are not strong enough.
Yeah. See, like I'm that person that's really annoyed by like tapping and fidgeting and other people's sounds.
I mean, I don't like people sounds.
But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Talking I'm fine with, but I mean
Right.
like people sounds like burping and farting. No one likes
No, but like someone sitting there like drumming their fingers on the table, they might drive me up a wall.
No, it's terrible. Stop that.
Or like I don't know. It sounds, I don't know. But tactile, I could see that. I could like close my eyes and like feel like something very soft or something very like has certain little bumps on it or something like that I could do. So that sensory seeking I could do. But I think, I mean, some people are sensory seeking or sensory avoidance of certain things in general.
Yeah. Like I hate slime.
See, I could I could just do it. See, I can feel it.
Depends
right
on
now.
the type of slime. I'm very texture specific.
Avoidant.
No, because there's some textures I really enjoy, but there's other textures, hell to the no.
Yeah. Like I'm not a fidgeter, but if you handed me something like that, I definitely could just keep, you know what I mean? Like squishing it and that kind of a thing. I get that. The sound stuff, I don't get so much.
Yeah.
And visual stuff, I don't know. What? You have a face like you're...
Well, because there's like a lot more stuff that I could talk about, but I feel like we've babbled for too long, so I'm not going to go into it. But I feel like you would like this because you like your history. But our dude Plato, he had a friend named Archetychus of Tarentum who was named Chromatic because he qualified sound with color.
Chrome like color.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. And then Lysander of Sion was said to have introduced a more colorful style of music on the chromatic scale itself. So this is like something we've been using, this kind of synesthetic tones forever. Since the times of Plato, BC's, I guess, right?
There was not Play-Doh. Plato, people.
Plato. And then there's all this other stuff. There was something else I saw that was interesting that I was going to throw out at you. A lot of composers have used it.
Yeah, I could totally see that in a composer. Big time.
Charlie XCX has it. Brandon Urie.
Who's he?
The lead singer of Panic at the Disco.
Okay.
Billie Eilish, Lorde, Andy Partridge, not of the Partridge family. That's the only Partridge I know. Pharrell Williams.
Okay. Pharrell. I like Pharrell.
Yes. The guitarist of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. There was something that was like interesting that I was going to share with you.
But I could totally see that music. But I would say it'd be the music and the color crossover. Like that's the one I could see the most. I could see a painter hearing his paintings and a musician seeing the colors that they're composing. And like, I see that. I can get that art, mix up type thing.
So this is what I was going to share with you. And you can look on the Wikipedia page in the show notes. There was research about synesthesia, about how the brain makes those sensory connections and like cross them or have that multi-sensory experience. And so there is a test called the Bubakiki effect.
Bubakiki.
Bubakiki. And so it was designed by someone named Wolfgang Kohlherr, where he made two abstract shapes and he named each of the shapes. And then he showed the shapes to people and asked which is which and said, people almost always called one Booba and almost always called the other Kiki without any context. And children as young as 2.5 made those same assignments.
I see that though.
Yeah.
That I can get. I can see a shape as a name.
Yeah. So
it's like when you have like an animal or a stuffed animal and you're like, this is Winston. And everyone's like, it is.
It is Winston.
It is like.
Well, I think that's like a natural human tendency to want to categorize and label and name things.
Right.
So it makes sense that you would be named, okay, I've got these two names. Which one fits this name? You're going to make that choice. Right. But I think what this test is saying is based on those letters and the sound it makes, assigning it to a shape, a visual thing that doesn't have sound.
Right. No, I could see that. Cool.
Yeah. And I won't tell you which is which in case you want to take the test.
Booba Kiki.
Booba
I'm
Kiki.
afraid what's going to happen if I Google.
Booba Kiki is going to be like my stripper
What's
name.
the guy's name? Because I'm afraid if I look that up.
It's Wolfgang
Booba Kiki
Kohler.
effect. Okay, all right,
Booba
came up
Kiki.
the experiment. Because I was afraid it was going to come up some kind of weird stuff.
I have a theory, though.
Let me look at the images. All right.
I'm not going to... So people who are listening
Booba
is the one on the right.
The smushy one, and Kiki is the sharp. Well, I see it's written two different ways. Kiki is the sharp one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
exactly.
This
is what I think. I think Booba because it's bubbly.
Yeah.
And then
Kiki is
the only other choice is Kiki.
Sparkly and sharp. Yes, of course. It makes sense. I
Booba
get
Kiki.
it. Booba Kiki. I was so afraid of Googling that I was going to get some random porn or something.
No, thankfully.
Oh my goodness.
So there's so much more I can talk about, but we've talked enough. Everybody got the point.
Cool.
There's an experimental theater piece from 1912 called The Yellow Sound, which talks about the experience, I guess, of that. So yeah.
All right. So everyone, thank you for listening to Medical Media Mixer.
The perfect ridiculous cocktail.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Medical Media Mixer podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps others find the show. Want to keep the conversation going? Follow us on social media. We're at Medical Media Mixer Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and on Pinterest, the Medical Media Mixer board.
If you'd like to support the show and help us grow, check us out on Patreon. Patreon.com/Medical Media Mixer Podcast. And on Buy Me a Coffee, buymeacoffee.com/Medical Media Mixer Podcast. If you have a topic idea, feedback, or just want to say hi, send us an email at medicalmediamixer@gmail.com. You can also stream all of our episodes and find more info on our website, medicalmediamixer.podbean.com. We're available on all major podcast platforms, so no matter where you listen, we're there. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep mixing medicine and media.